All right, everyone. Some of you are probably hungover right now, so you should definitely just do what I do and grab a cup of coffee. Not because of hangovers, but caffeine is a good thing. When you get going in the morning, you need a little bit of a kick in the ass to start sometimes. Although I feel really great today, really energetic. Not even because of the coffee, although I'm sure that that'll help me grow more incoherent over time. We got to talk about Trump's 4th of July speech yesterday, his big salute to America, because it did basically what should have been done and was pretty much perfect. It was totally spot on. It was very funny to see the wind taken out of the sails of all of the liberal pundits that were live tweeting about it, and then suddenly basically went silent during the speech, because you could tell, like the Will Somers and the Jared Holtz and Becca Lewis's and Vox and Salon and all these groups, they wanted to attack him. They wanted to pick his speech apart and say, well, he's being political. He's disgracing America. He's being an embarrassment. But he didn't. He avoided that completely. Gave a scripted speech, with the teleprompter and everything, very presidential style. Avoided really any semblance of politics. And the jabs that he did take were in such a context that they can't be ascribed to politics. Like, for instance, he celebrated Betsy Ross, naming her as a great American. Now, why would he mention Betsy Ross? Okay, some chick who designed a flag, maybe. That's not really in the same crowd as all the other people he was mentioning in the same strain. The reason was Colin Kaepernick there, Kaepernick or whatever the fuck his name is, the loser that basically has become nothing more than a censorious hack seeking constant attention by pretending everything offends him. Kaepernick there had complained about Nike having like Betsy Ross flag shoes, which is ridiculous. I mean, it's okay, it's Nike. Multinational corporation. I think, don't they use child labor in China and stupid shit like that? It's basically the Apple of footwear, where everything is jacked up. So I don't really care if Nike wants to ram its ass into the ground because it's trying to appease the outrage mob. That's fine. I think it's a good thing if Nike goes out of business entirely. But Kaepernick was like rambling about how the Betsy Ross flag is racist or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, you don't know history. You don't know anything. You barely know how to throw a ball around, and so, why are you even bothering to weigh in on this? So I thought that was masterful. That was a slap at the far left, at the outrage mobs of the social justice warriors who whirl their fat wrists around and howl with rage anytime something offends them. So that was good. He celebrated ICE, but he did it in the context of law enforcement. You can't call that political. Oh, we're going to celebrate we salute our great law enforcement, our police, our first responders, and firemen, and ICE, and border control. Well, I mean, it's not political, unless you believe in eliminating the border entirely. So, like Maxine Waters will see that as political. Most people won't. So that was good. He maintained an even tone. He didn't get all wild. About the only time that he threw in something that may have been extemporaneous was when he talked about the Space Force, and he mentioned that we would be planting our flag on Mars soon. By the way, it's very funny when people ramble about how it's evil. The idea it's fascism or something to reestablish NASA in the proper order so that we can go back to the moon. Like it was great back then. It was like, oh, it's a morale boost and it'll help science and create opportunity, and it's a show of American ingenuity and intelligence. But now it's just a waste of money. From the same people who even criticized Obama when he wanted to reduce NASA's budget. It's very funny how they did a 180 on that too. I think the idea of a space force, like having space marines with laser weapons, is pretty cool, actually. I think that's a good idea. I definitely think it should be the United States to first land on Mars. Even if we're sending a rover to plant the flag, at the very least to have, put our symbol on Mars first. It's a psychological thing. It's optics more than it is anything else. The idea that we can do anything useful at this moment with our technology on the face of Mars is, no, not really. But we can, for the psychological impact alone, say we're the only ones with the technological capability. We're the ones that actually managed to put someone on there and get them back. Logistically, it'll be a nightmare, but we can do it with existing technology. All that is required is the will. Trump's message was extremely optimistic as well. I mean, notice, sometimes when Trump speaks, he comes out and he's like, well, the left is doing this and it's damaging America. We've got this problem we need to solve and stuff. He didn't dwell on any of that. It literally was just a salute to America. Most of it was a salute to the armed forces and to some exceptional Americans who joined him in the crowd. That was basically what it was. And that's the proper 4th of July message. He didn't turn it political. This was less political than some of the 4th of July speeches that have been made by presidents. This was less political. And so the left, you could see they sort of go silent. Because they're trying to think of ways to attack him, and they're like, well, it's not really. To them, it's boring. It's funny because he gave the entire liberal corpus of the gadfly yellow journalist legacy media blue balls. Because they were sitting there pen in hand and phone out on Twitter and every other site, just ready to fucking unleash their tweet storm. And they couldn't. And so, and it was funny because like Will Sommer, before the events, a couple hours before, is like, oh, the rain has come. Basically, some people were insinuating it's an act of God and stuff. They're saying the flyover might not happen, and maybe the speech is delayed, so haha, basically it's a disaster. And then they were trying to say, the other thing that they tried to do, and they failed completely, was convince people that the crowd was small. Because, of course, the shots of the stage, all you're seeing are the VIPs. Well, it looks like it's a small crowd of people, basically the press, a couple thousand people at most. But when they panned back around and showed you what was behind the little press staging area, I don't even want to mention, I have no clue how many people were there, but the entire reflector pool between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial was packed balls to the wall, and then some beyond that. Like, they must have had screens back there, because there's no way you're hearing Trump back that far. So fucking, what, half a mile away? The entire area was completely full. There was no more capacity. It had to have been many hundreds of thousands, possibly 1 million or more people. So this went off without a hitch. The parade was fine. It was also largely not political. I mean, when I tuned in for the parade, when I realized it was already going on, I'm like, oh shit, I'm missing out. The Hare Krishnas were floating past, and then there was like a Chinese dragon, and like the nation of Taiwan, I guess, had a float and stuff, and things like that. Is like, it was fun. You have a nice big parade, which is sort of standard 4th of July fare, a nice parade, and drums, and and soldiers marching through and stuff. I thought it was excellent. And it'd be funny. So then they've defaulted. Because they can't focus on the message and attack that like they wanted to. That would have been juicy if Trump had gone crazy and started talking about how Democrats hate the 4th of July because they hate America or something. Which would have been too far from the truth with some of these morons. But, I mean, he didn't do that, so they've defaulted to saying, oh, well, it costs too much. Oh, it's improper that there were, like, tanks on Pennsylvania Avenue. Like, okay, well, what an indictment of JFK and Ronald Reagan and people like that. They loved their military-style parades. Military parades were extremely common within the United States for like a century. It isn't until the last couple of decades that really that stopped happening. Only in very recent history has that not really been a thing. Before that, yes, JFK had missile launchers rolling down Pennsylvania Avenue. It was considered a show of American strength and pride. It's very, very interesting to see some people say like Buttigieg there. It's like, well, this just shows, what did he say? This doesn't show American strength or ingenuity or anything. This shows, it's basically just an ego trip. It shows like a fragile ego on Trump's part. Like, are you going to say that about JFK? Are you going to say that about FDR and Lyndon Baines Johnson and all of these others that had a lot of military parades? Dwight Eisenhower? No, you wouldn't say it about them, but then they'll come and say, well, that's the past. Well, fuck you. You know what you're talking about. Same as it ever was. You're trying to change the way that things go into a shitty direction. That's the whole thing. It's an indictment of the Democratic Party's crazy mentality. They also don't want the United States to fundamentally exist. They don't appear to believe in the concept of having a southern border at this point. Like in the most literal sense, people like Elizabeth Warren have endorsed essentially scrapping the basic concept of a nation state. It's not an exaggeration. You can hear it from their own words. They've gone completely nuts. I'm extremely happy with the outcome here because I think it helps Trump a lot. It will help him with his image. I mean, you compare Trump as he was last night, the way he speaks and what he was saying. Compare that with what you heard on the Democratic debate stage, and then tell me who's the unhinged one. Which of these groups is unhinged? Trump and his entourage or the Democratic Party? Oh, it's the Democrats. Completely fucking lost it. That's about all. Peace out.